What up, meatheads? This is Travis, and this is the Meat Block Podcast. Whoa, that was weird. I forgot how I do this. What up, meatheads? This is Travis, American Butcher. Or is it? Oh, man. My brain is just deteriorating and getting worse. Showing early signs of Alzheimer's, so that's exciting. Don't worry, I could still draw a clock. Anyway, what up, meatheads? This is Travis, aka American Butcher, and this is the Meat Block Podcast, the podcast by butchers for everyone. And by, I mean for everyone, that I think everyone could take away something and enjoy from this podcast. You know, last week's episode was pretty, how should we say, deep. And this one is very much different, or very different. I got to interview Daniel Monzent, head or director of marketing for CowBoy Charcoal, also owned by Duraflame. And it is great. We talk about amazing things about what CowBoy Charcoal and grilling and applications, as well as the history of Duraflame and Duraflame Log. If you grew up like me, I think you'll find great nostalgia in this episode. So please enjoy, and yeah, like, rate, and review us on iTunes. And I'll be back at the end. And here we go.
Hello,
Daniel.
Travis. How you doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself? Happy
I'm good.
Happy early Saturday morning.
Well, you know, it's actually a bit of a sleep in. I'm kind of an early riser, so I got to sleep in a little bit this morning, so that works out.
Oh, nice. I am. It ebbs and flows with me.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I've always kind of gotten up early, and getting up early is easy. It's the going to bed early part that's tough.
Yeah, definitely. My wife's the type of person, she'll go to bed, or she goes to bed at like no later than 8 and wakes up at 4, and yeah, it's weird.
Oh,
and not for
my
work
wife
or anything.
the opposite.
Yeah, but she goes to
She's
bed
up
at
till
4.
all hours of the night.
Oh, okay.
No, all hours of the night. She's up wide awake, and then morning rolls around. It's tough. It hits her.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I wish people didn't need to sleep, but then again, I love sleeping.
Right. It's always good.
Yeah.
It's always good for you.
So, Daniel, just give me a brief, or it could be extended, of who you are and how you got into working with Duraflame and CowBoy Charcoal.
Yeah. Who am I? Boy, that's a crazy question, right? I think people go all their lives trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and it doesn't have. And when people ask that question, don't say I work for this company. Like, do you like to fish? Do you like barbecue? What? Who is Daniel?
Sure. Yeah. Right. Well, I'm just a young dumb kid from the country that started cooking. All the men in the family were kind of the barbecuers and the cookers.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing this barbecue thing for a while before I even really realized it was a business. We were just out there on the grill. Easter was a fantastic time where we had goat and pork chops and beef cuts and just this huge Santa Maria grill and cooking everything. It was awesome.
Are you from California? Or
yeah, I'm from California. Now based in beautiful Henderson, Nevada, which we just moved to. But coming from California, backyard grilling and putting things in a 55-gallon drum was just kind of the norm. I mean, we've been hanging ribs in a barrel since before I can even remember.
Yeah,
and then once I got into this barbecue thing, this barrel business is just this huge business, and we've been using an old 55-gallon drum that we found and burned out and just started using.
Yeah, no, and the reason I asked that about California is you said Santa Maria style, and that's very regional. And I just know because Santa Maria Tri-Tip, and I'm actually from Santa Barbara originally, is my hometown.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're from the epicenter there, right where it all started.
Yeah, yeah. And it is, yeah. Well, what is Santa Maria style for those who don't know?
Yeah, it's really just open fire, flat style grilling. If you imagine your kettle grill on a trailer, or something a little bit bigger, where you can just kind of raise and lower your meat. That's really how you control the heat, is raising it and lowering it from the open fire underneath.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, Santa Maria style grilling. And you're really letting that, whatever your fuel source is, you're really letting that fuel your and flavor your food. And that's kind of the key, I think, is what people don't really realize is they get all this great food and they cook it, but what they're using to cook it with is also part of the flavor. And that's where I think Santa Maria style really shows off, all its best qualities.
Yeah, definitely. And then your journey from California, and then all right, so you grew up barbecuing.
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah, then what? So then I went down to San Diego, had a great little run down in San Diego for college, spent more time on the beach and with the surfboard and running around the bars really than doing a great job in school.
Yeah.
But San Diego is the most beautiful place. Maybe next to Santa Barbara. I think those are pretty close.
I don't know, like downtown San Diego Gaslight District is pretty amazing, and having the stadium right there.
Yeah, it's awesome. It was awesome. And it was at a pretty great time where the football team was down there. The Chargers were still there. And the Padres were kind of good at that time. So there was a lot of sports to watch. It was a blast.
Yeah. Being from Santa Barbara, I had a bunch of friends who didn't survive going to college in San Diego because it's amplified. The women are amplified.
Exactly.
The weather's amplified.
Everything's amplified. The alcohol's amplified. The waves are amplified. Everything is. Yeah. So it was awesome. Awesome time. Had some great roommates that we went to high school together, and we all went down to school together and just had an absolute blast. They're still some of my best friends today. One of them stayed down there. Everybody else kind of went on their way. And then I came back home up to Northern California, the Stockton area, and started producing video and TV content and with some friends. And, lo and behold, we found this kooky idea where we took a little kitchen set and we literally bought at Home Depot. Nice. And we put it out in the field, and we brought the local ABC weather anchor outside, and we did a little Friday segment where the weather anchor would come outside and actually do the weather segment from outside, which was kind of novel for them.
Yeah.
And then we paired them up with a local chef to cook a recipe. And that, so they could look out and they say, well, the forecast today, and they could look up and say, well, it's clear, it's sunny, it looks great. Oh. And then we had the chef, and they were cooking something up, and that little segment just exploded with popularity. And we found, hey, we've got a great little television show idea. So we spun that off with our ABC affiliate. We spun that into a television show, and we literally trekked the world. We filmed about 300 episodes, trekked the world, put a kitchen set in the middle of the field of what was fresh. We brought a local chef out. They turned around to the farmer, grabbed a tomato, put it on the chopping block, cut it, and bam, there was our meal. And it brought us all around the world, cuisine all around the world. And I just, at that point, growing up as a young, dumb kid, you never really know what you want to do. I knew that food was at the core of everything that I loved. Nice. And from that moment on, it was just eating great food, cruising the world with great chefs. Spent a couple of weeks in Thailand with Jet Tila filming a segment, from a little show called Off the Menu. And he was bringing us to all kinds of little local places that you'd never find, and people that have been cooking the same way for 100 years. Just fantastic cuisine. I just loved it.
That's awesome. What's the name of that show, and what platform can people find it on now?
It's gone now. It's off the air now. It was Full Bloom was the show that we originally started. We did some things with Jet Tila called Off the Menu with Jet Tila, and we ended that run, which was a blast. We filmed with Emerald out, and he had a little tomato deal outside of Gonzales, which I'm sure you're pretty familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Not too far away from Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So we got to film with him and all kinds of folks. And as that kind of wound up, I kind of jumped around a little bit in the food business. I wanted to learn more a little bit from the marketing side about how food, I know how it physically got from the field to the table,
mm-hmm.
but I wanted to find out a little bit more about how financially it got from the field to a grocery store to your table.
Okay.
So I spent a little bit of time with my wife's family. They have a pretty big fresh cherry business out of California. So I worked with a lot of retailers and grocery stores and kind of followed this process of fresh cherries and fresh produce, blueberries and asparagus and walnuts and all those kinds of things. And really spent about 3 years understanding, how this whole financial wheel worked. And boy, it's crazy. I mean, these retailers and what they have to go through and the margins and just getting product from the field to the table, it's difficult. A lot of hoops to jump through on the meat side, the produce side, every side. It's nuts.
Yeah, definitely. I know, I'm friends with a lot of farmers, and then me working in the meat industry, there's certainly margin is the number one thing where you got to think about, if this truck goes down, then what is this truck bringing back, and then sharing loads and things like that. It's just...
Yeah, it's a whole crazy side of the business.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I knew the folks at Duraflame. We're all from Stockton, California. Duraflame started in Stockton. It's a 50-year-old third-generation company. I knew a bunch of the folks that worked there, and they had a great position open up. And for me, so I'm now the director of marketing here with Duraflame. And Duraflame is a much bigger company than you think of when you just hear the name Duraflame. Obviously, we're the fire log company, invented that industry and made that industry successful. But we're also CowBoy Charcoal and Western barbecue products.
Nice. Yeah.
And so as you look at the barbecue side of the world, we handle probably about 80% of all of the wood for cooking in the country.
And
wood chips and chunks and logs and any of those barbecue woods that you can think of, we handle just about all of those.
And I want to get back to that, but I want to talk about the I guess the history of Duraflame, how they came out with their, because I grew up not that far from you. I moved to Santa Barbara when I started high school, but actually my young youth was in San Ramon and Livermore area.
Okay. Yeah.
And I have real distinct memories because it didn't get too cold, but when it was, seasonal, my dad would always get a case of Duraflame logs. And then, around the holidays and Christmas and things like that, we would use those. And it was just it has such nostalgia for me, seeing the Duraflame log. And even till this day when I see them in the stores, of just bringing me back to childhood and Christmas time and things like that. But how did Duraflame discover that market and then develop that product 50 years ago? What was it? I guess how organically it came about. And then I would love to talk about the hardwoods and the different woods like that as well.
Yeah. So it's such a great story with our founders, Phil Berolsheimer and the family. So invented and have patented the pencil slap machine, which allows you to automate and create pencils. And from that, one of the byproducts of creating pencils, as you could imagine, are pencil shavings.
Mm-hmm.
So our company had, mountains and mountains of these pencil shavings that some of them they use for fuel to operate the facility. They still had more.
That's cool.
And so they decided to add a little bit of wax to them because they were burning them for heat to run the facility. So they added a little bit of wax and brought it home so they could burn it at home. Mm-hmm. And they thought, wow, this is actually a great product. And that became the first California cedar log. Okay. Our company originally was Cal Cedar, which is still in operation today. And so the invention and the birth of the fire log started right there with the California cedar log, which eventually turned into Duraflame and ignited, literally, this fire log business.
Nice. And how long was the pencil company around before that?
Boy, it was quite a while. I don't know the exact dates, but our company, just Duraflame's been around for 50 years, and they were around for quite a while ahead of that. So, it's a pretty old California corporation.
Yeah.
And in finding the byproducts, that's really what our company was founded on, because we're using the byproducts of our pencil shavings in the past. Mm-hmm. Now we focus on using the byproducts of all industry. So things that would normally hit the landfill, that's what we're using, and grinding down, making sure it's safe. Things in California like walnut shells and pecan shells, things from the lumber industry, the flooring industry, all of that sawdust that comes from making oak flooring. Yeah. But when the timber mills are creating oak floors, they're cutting the oak, and that's creating sawdust. So we take that sawdust that they would otherwise discard, we take that sawdust and other forms of sawdust, and we bind all of that together, and that's what creates these logs. So we're actually helping save the landfills a little bit. Yeah. The products, we work really hard with them. They're 85% cleaner than burning just regular wood. So we're putting a cleaner product into the air than you would if you just burned a bundle of wood.
Yeah.
So we really focus on byproducts.
And that's important for, sustainability and things like that. People don't really think of especially in in your industry, but in all industries, that there is byproduct that could be used in certain applications. There certainly are in the meat industry with using animal byproduct for rendered down lubrications, and a lot of people don't realize that the glue that holds particle board together is actually made from animal glue.
Right. Yeah. I mean, could you imagine when you're done breaking down a whole animal, the cuts that don't go to market, could you imagine just throwing them in the garbage?
Oh, no, that would be irresponsible. That would...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
it'd be terrible. Well, one of the, real quick before we hit the logs, one of the products that we've just come up with, it's our brand new, and I don't want to sound too much like an infomercial here, but our new outdoor log. We named it conveniently because a lot of millennials need to be told. But when we did some of our research, they said we need to know exactly what this is used for. So we wanted to create a log that could be used outdoors. We called it Outdoor Log.
I like it.
And as
a millennial,
that checked
I like
all the boxes.
Yeah,
exactly. So we created this outdoor log, which is virtually smokeless. When you talk about fire, creating a smokeless log is kind of hard to do. But we figured it out. We bound it together with molasses and tallow. And that's really what holds the log together. And so it's completely safe to do s'mores and hot dogs and cook over the top of it. But it's the primary wax blend that we use is a tallow wax. So it's all natural, and it's from, here are industries, fire logs and the meat block coming together.
Yeah. And I think that's important for the listener and the consumer to know that there is a product like that to cook over. Because I remember when I was younger, I would want to make s'mores in my fireplace, and there was that question of my dad being like, "Well, I don't know." And now I do know that there is the outdoor log that I could put in my fire pit, and be confident in letting my son do that. And that's great. And I think that's great for everyone to know.
Yeah. And it's, we're not all Boy Scouts. Lighting a fire sometimes is hard, and that's the last thing you want to do is you're sitting around the fire and your kid's looking at you. Dad, Mom, get the fire going. And you're blowing on the air, trying to get it going. You light the bag. There's 2 big arrows that they light here. They're little triangle shapes, so you can stack them up and they look like wood. Mm-hmm. And you just light them, and it's easy, and you're off and running in 5 minutes, and you got your s'mores going right away, and you're singing campfire songs. So we're just trying to make life easy and simple and fun. And the last thing you need to do is worry about, is my fire going to start?
Yeah. And I think like a lot of people have this nostalgia of like building this fire and building the teepee and all that,
Yeah, I think they have the nostalgia of their dad building the teepee and his dad cussing in the back, and they're out there shivering.
Yeah, exactly. We talked earlier off mic yesterday. Are you having your mimosa?
I'm not, but I have a little special blend of coffee.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Is kicking things off nice. Yeah, absolutely. So I've got brewed some coffee this morning and went into the cellar and figured out a nice little morning blend. So I'm in good shape.
Okay, awesome. Because I have a Bloody Mary that is
nice.
It is getting shorter, so the interview may get a little bit weirder.
No worries. Let's go. I'm in for weird.
All right. And then so Duraflame has this market on the, I don't know, what would you call the Duraflame log? What does your company call? You have the market in X.
Fire logs. Yeah. Fire logs and fireplace fuels. That's really kind of what the industry term, I guess you'd say, is fireplace fuel. That's where we are.
Okay. And then I'm going to sound like an expert right now. Do you guys call that the hearth industry? Is that a term?
Hearth and home.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. There's actually a hearth and home convention, which is real popular. Yeah, I mean it's big. People take this thing really seriously, and that's one of the things that I found when I came into this business. I like to have a good time. My wife thinks it's a little bit more sarcastic than anything else, but it's fire, man. It's you light it and you have a good time around it, and you watch a movie and you sing songs and have a cocktail and just enjoy yourselves, right? It's later than we think.
Yeah.
So it's a serious industry. It's a hearth and home industry, and that includes pellet fuels and wood burning stoves and all that.
So Duraflame makes pellet stoves or pellet fuel?
We do. We have a brand of Duraflame pellet fuel that we just started actually last year for wood burning stoves, and we wanted to create a premium blend. There's so many people making pellets, and barbecue pellets, and wood burning stove pellets, and all these kinds of things. So we wanted to make something that was a premium burn that you would get an excellent burn every time you use it, and that's what Duraflame is really about. Every time you use it, it works perfectly. You don't have to think about it. There's a lot of other fire logs that are out there on the market that are made very well. That sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
You don't have to be modest about them. They're terrible. You heard it here first. Right. They're terrible.
All right, you broke the news.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure that everybody's getting an excellent product every time, and we work really hard. We have a full R&D team on the East Coast and the West Coast. That all these guys do is they have big bins that we send them of all kinds of fuels, and all they do is mix things together and burn them to see how well they're going to burn and if we can make a better log. That's their whole job, which is awesome. I would love that job.
That sounds great. Well, I'm open to that
I just
job.
light stuff on fire.
Yeah. Well,
things like Beavis and Butthead, weren't they just like fire?
Yeah, until they had that weird lawsuit that was urban legend almost.
Right.
But I would, if there's like a product testing league, I got a pellet stove, an offset smoker, a regular smoker. I run 3,000-pound smokers at my work, and I have 2 fire
Nice.
pits at my house. So if you ever want to send stuff my way, let me know.
Well, I think there's a couple pallets on their way. I got to check the delivery date.
Okay. Awesome. And then, so Duraflame, we talked extensively about that. Then how did CowBoy Charcoal come about? When was the infancy of that and the launch of that? And then what was the, I guess those are good questions. And we'll
I'll take it from there. Sure. Yeah. So Duraflame had this great business in the wintertime, and then everybody can go on vacation right around spring and then come back in September to get started for the wintertime again. So as a business, they kind of looked at, what are counter seasonal opportunities, and they saw that barbecue grilling fuels, things of that nature were kind of the perfect product to get involved with to kind of balance out our year. Mm-hmm. So they started working with the Crace family, who owned and operated CowBoy Charcoal since the early 30s. They've been involved in charcoal in the Missouri and area. And so we started working with Don Crace, and Don and his brother Joe. They expanded CowBoy Charcoal, learned how to kiln dry, learned all the different ins and outs. There's so many ways to dry wood and turn it into charcoal, and they've spent years putting all of that together. And we formed a partnership with them in the early 90s, right around 1990. We started helping them market their product to get into more retailers, and they were kind of the brains behind the operation, and we were a little bit more of the engine that drove it into retail. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of formalized that partnership with an acquisition of CowBoy Charcoal, and Don Crace actually still works with us today. He's the head of that department for us. So Don really kind of oversees charcoal production and working with retailers and how we're creating our charcoal, where we're getting the wood from, all of those types of things. He really focuses on that for us. But the Crace family has been doing CowBoy Charcoal for almost 100 years.
Wow. And that's great that he's still part of it. So often you hear these stories of acquisitions and things like that, where it's more or less people wanting to get the market, not and not so much recognizing the brand and the hard work that went into it and the payoff. So that's great that he's still a part of it, and that I had no idea.
Yeah, he's forgotten more about charcoal than I'll probably ever know. I mean, this guy is. I start talking to him about things, and he says, "Well, what about this? What about that? What about this?"
Yeah.
Like, come on, I don't know, man. You're the expert. You got to tell me.
And then the flip side of that too is because these people may be experts in their field, but they also need the partnership to get into these established retailers that you guys have too. So it's like It's a symbiotic relationship.
Right. It is. And, retailing anymore is so complicated with supply chain and logistics and knowing where your product has originated, being able to understand what factory I need to go back to if I have a complaint with a customer in Florida or a customer in Washington State, or the retailer wants to know the point of origin of something specifically. When you're making hundreds of thousands of bags of charcoal, just that infrastructure alone is so complex.
Yeah, supply chain management and lot tracking.
It's not. I mean, I can't, and this is just charcoal. I can't imagine what you guys go through when you're talking about animal products and, what that supply chain looks like from the ranch to the butcher's case.
Yeah, there's a lot, but yeah.
It might be a different episode.
Yeah, well, I could answer. I could tell you, but I don't want to detract from what you're saying because it would take up the whole episode.
Right. So we started working with Don and CowBoy Charcoal. I mean, the easiest place that you can find those products, you can find it at Lowe's, Ace, True Value, retailers like Kroger. Have our CowBoy lump, and we really that's one of the pieces that we loved about CowBoy and Don and what he's been able to put together. is that it really fits with our core philosophy of manufacturing products from byproducts and waste of other industries. And that's where we get our timber.
And that's great. So let's talk about that, because we talked about it earlier about, Duraflame using that. But I think that's really important. As I look out right now, we talked about where I've lived before and where you've lived. I find myself lucky enough to have a view of the Everett sawmill overlooking the Puget Sound, and I see a whole barge full of sawdust and wood chips.
Right.
Right. So where does CowBoy Charcoal, where do you guys source this quote unquote byproduct? And it's almost blasphemous to say byproduct, because you guys are using it in such an amazing way.
Yeah. Right. So we've partnered with several different timber industries. So folks that are just clearing out, space for a new subdivision or something like that, we'll take all of that wood and sort it based on variety. And we've got guys at our plant that they know more about wood. They can look at a tree and say that's this species, that's that species, and get it all the way down to the specific Latin root of the species.
That's awesome.
So we're sorting that from folks that are just, kind of cutting down and clearing out areas. But primarily we work with the sawmills that are around Kentucky and Tennessee and Missouri. And when they're making wood floors, when they're making cabinets, when they're making all those types of things, they're using big, whole trees. Mm-hmm. And so we're taking the pieces that they cut off, and that's what we are curing in our kilns to make charcoal. So the wood that's maybe a little crooked, that's got a knot in it, all of those types of things that they can't use for the beautiful wood plank floor, mm-hmm. we're taking that wood over to our kilns. We're making charcoal out of it. And that's what becomes CowBoy oak and hickory. So the oak and the hickory that comes out of those sawmills, that's what we're using there.
Nice. You guys got to use Washington wood, because Everett, Washington, up where I am, we were founded on shingle mills up in the late 1800s. But so what is the process? And I'm ignorant to this, so I assume everyone is. How do you make actual charcoal? You talked about putting it in kilns and stuff. What is the definition of charcoal? And how does it become from raw material to charcoal itself?
Yeah. So in basic terms, it's really complicated and it's extremely simple, all at the same time.
I like that.
Like most things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like butchery, you take an animal and make it smaller. But there's a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just cut. All you have to do is take a knife and cut it, right?
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
Yeah. My son does it.
Easy stuff. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So we take big, bundles of wood that come in from, saw, mill, or factory X. They bring it to us on big semi trucks, all in nice big bundles. We put it in our yard. We let it cure, depending on the wood that we get, the species that it is, the thickness that it is, the size. We take moisture samples when it comes in, and that gives us the time that we need to cure it, dry cure it in our yard. And then once it's finished curing, we put it in huge concrete kilns. They're above ground kilns. They look like big concrete warehouses. Mm-hmm. We load the warehouses up with as much charcoal or as much wood as possible. Just fill it absolutely full. Mm-hmm. And then we start a fire right in the middle of it.
That's awesome.
Close it all down, completely bereft of any oxygen. Bereft, that's a good word for podcasting, certainly. Kill all the oxygen to it. And then we just let that burn from the center out to the end. And it gets pretty hot in there, with all of that.
Yeah.
But never enough oxygen for all of it to ignite. Mm-hmm. So it kind of just smolders and cooks until all of that brown wood becomes thick black charcoal. Okay. And we've got all kinds of, it's the first time I went out there and took a look at the place, and they were walking me around and showing me how it worked and all of that. Here's this, you're from California. You don't know anything about anything. Let me take you around, right? And this guy had been working there I think he'd been working there for 100 years. We had all of these, he has all these computers and all of this kind of stuff set up to the kiln to know the temperature of the exhaust that's coming out, the temperature of the fire. We've got probes all over inside the wood, so he knows what temperature it is from the front end of the kiln to the back end of the kiln and everything in between. And he said, yeah, all this computer, all this shit, that is all bullshit. And he walked up and he put his face right close to the edge of the kiln. And he did that about 4 different times, all the way to the end. Yeah, that one will be ready in about 20 minutes. And we went back to the computer, and it said like 27 minutes. And these things cook for like 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
And, this guy knew exactly, just by feeling it. He's been doing this for so long that he knew exactly. Because if you let it go too long, your charcoal is going to break down, get brittle, and you're going to have these tiny little pieces.
Yeah.
If you don't cook it long enough, then the charcoal is going to be brown wood, and it's not going to be that nice black charcoal. It's going to be more like just kind of dry, blackened wood.
Yeah,
really
regular wood.
Yeah, exactly. So you really have to just kind of hit it right in that sweet spot, and these guys know exactly when to do it. So you take it out of the kiln, with a big loader. You take it out of the kiln, you let it cool off, and then you put it in a bag and send it to the store. Easy as that.
That's awesome. And then, so what is the product line of CowBoy Charcoal? Like how many different SKUs do you guys have just on the charcoal? And then I want to get into the flavor and size.
Yeah, so just on the charcoal, we really have 2 main styles of charcoal. The lump charcoal, and we're talking all about lump charcoal at this point. We're not talking about little briquettes, and that's probably something that's important for people to know. Okay. This is all lump style charcoal.
And the proper application for this is your grill, right? Is your grill. Some people are using it in an offset smoker with some wood chunks. Most folks are using it in kettles or kamados. You really want to use, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but you really want to use lump charcoal for any type of ceramic kamado that you have. Okay. I'm using lump charcoal in everything at this point. I love it. But that's the process for lump, and we're really in an 8-pound bag or a 15-pound bag. That you'll find. Some other stores have a larger 34-pound bag. Some of the big club stores, like Costco, you see a big 34-pound bag, and it's a big bag. That's a lot of charcoal. Yeah.
But I'd go through that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well,
you'd go through that in a day with all your rigs.
Yeah, I know. Well, I use 3 40-pound bags of chips at my work every day.
Yeah. Well, we got to get using the good stuff.
All right. Yeah.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. We want to.
Good deal. So that's really, we try to keep it simple, and it's not too crazy. CowBoy's got a full line of all kinds of other products. But the lump charcoal, if there's anything that a listener could take away from this other than go buy Duraflame and CowBoy products, thank you very much. If there's anything that you could take away is use natural fuel for what you're cooking. It's, you guys as butchers spend so much time, effort, and energy creating amazing products and great pieces of meat for us to cook. It breaks my heart to see people take that and put it over a chemical-laden charcoal briquette. I die a little bit every time. I see it.
Well, you see the really self-lighting. It's like, like when like self-lighting or stuff that's like, has that chemical smell when you like, ugh. It's like, what? That's gonna. I'm not saying they're full of carcinogens, but I'm saying they're not. So, like, come on, guys.
They're not all natural. We can say that and be safe.
Yeah.
And really look for the all natural. Flip it over. Look at ingredients. When you take a bag of CowBoy lump and you flip it over and you look at the ingredients, you're going to find oak and hickory wood.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You know, when you look at our briquettes, we do manufacture briquettes as well, which are bound with a starch binder. So it's all natural. Some people don't use a starch as a binder; they use some other chemicals as binders. And that's when you look in your kettle and when you're done cooking, and if you see a ton of ash, that means that you used something that had a lot of chemicals in it, or had a lot of fillers, or a lot of products that wouldn't combust. And really what you want to have happen when you're cooking is you want your products to all combust.
Yeah. And you talk about ceramic smokers, you're meaning, or ceramic grills. You're talking about like
eggs and Kamado Joes and Primos and all those kinds of things.
Yeah. And
the Acorns.
Nice. Well, I was trying to get sponsored by Big Green Egg for a while, and they didn't return my calls. So I moved on.
Keep calling.
Yeah. Well, I moved on to Traeger, but
nice.
That brings me up to pellets. So what smoke brand pellets does Cowboy make?
Yeah. So we have all of the wood pellets, just like everybody else. Everybody's producing pellets, but we've got a little bit of a twist on pellets for us. We have created Cowboy Charcoal pellets. Mm-hmm. So when we make our lump charcoal, you can imagine a big front loader truck coming in and scooping up the charcoal and then bringing it to a cooling off shed, right? So it's all covered from any rain, and it just sits there until it's not hot anymore.
Yeah.
And then we take it from there and we put it on the line and it packs, right? Well, in that process, if you can imagine lump charcoal in your hand, some of it's going to kind of break off a little bit and you'll have little pieces. So we take all of that fall down. So we're even using the fall down from our own business. We're taking all that charcoal dust that falls off of the big pieces of charcoal. We're grinding that down a little bit more, and we're making pellets out of it. So they're Cowboy Charcoal pellets.
Nice.
So we mix that with oak wood, because oak you kind of need to use as a binder. And for everybody out there that's using pellets, that has their favorite bag from whatever company that you're using, there's a few companies that are creating 100% pure species pellets that, when they say apple pellets, they're really all apple. Mm-hmm. But they're very few of those. Almost all pellets, barbecue pellets that are made with oak as the primary wood, and then a little bit of the species feature wood on the front of the bag as an additive to that pellet. So if you think you're cooking just on apple or just on cherry or just on maple or whatever, you're really cooking on oak with some additive of apple or cherry or maple put in on top of it.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of a misconception out there.
Well, yeah, I think all industries want to do that too. I don't know. It's the capitalism, I guess. But
yeah, right. So we started with the charcoal pellet. So it's so the charcoal burns a little bit hotter, and so I've got too many grills in the backyard, but I've got 2 pellet grills back there. And one of the things that I lose when I cook on a pellet grill is you get great smoke flavor and the food tastes really good, mm-hmm. but it's just that wood flavor. You miss that charcoal. And growing up in California and having that Santa Maria style charcoal barbecue kind of backbone, yeah. I love the taste of charcoal barbecue. I love it. So with these Cowboy Charcoal pellets, that brings that back a little bit to your pellet grill fuel. So you get a little bit of that charcoal flavor. The heat's a little bit hotter. It'll get your temperatures up a little bit more. But more than that, it's Cowboy hickory and apple, and Cowboy just hickory charcoal and hickory. So it tastes great. A little bit different than some of the normal things out there. And I know there's all kinds of crazy flavors that you can get with pellets. Pellets are pretty cool, but try the charcoal. I think you'll love it.
Yeah, I'm going to try it this week. So
that's perfect.
Yeah, and then how did Cowboy Charcoal Duraflame move from essentially a fuel source to a barbecue smoking and all that into an actual, culinary field with their sauces. What was that evolution?
Yeah. So, it was just kind of a next step for us. We've been kind of toying with it for a long time, and this is really Don's baby. He loves barbecue. He's in Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, and that's the one thing that California. I love California food. I love West Coast food. All of that is great, but when you're really talking barbecue, it's few and far between in California where there's really good, like, Texas style, North Carolina style, Southern barbecue.
Yeah.
So Don's been playing with those things for a while, and he had a few sauces that he had created, and the Prairie Fire, which is, man, it's so good. I love a little bit of heat. So he had developed those and kind of jumped into it. And when we were out there cooking at shows and festivals and all those types of places, we were always putting a sauce on what we were cooking. So we said, well, if we're always putting sauce, we might as well have our own. And it's kind of taken off. So we've got a couple of different food lines. We've got the CowBoy Charcoal, the CowBoy Barbecue sauce. But then we also have all of the Jack Daniel's barbecue spices and rubs.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that license. So there's a steak seasoning that's out there that's just, man, I don't like seasoning steaks. I just like a little salt on it. But this steak seasoning, it's your sauce up, man. It's really good. So we kind of jumped into the food scene a little bit, and I might have pushed them into that a little bit more, having a little bit of a cooking show and chef background. So I work with those guys a little bit. We love to go out there and cook and show people how to eat great food, how to cook with natural, easy ingredients, chunks of wood. In addition to all the charcoal, we're also promoting and working with folks on cooking with wood. Chunks. You walk in there and you see the big barbecue accessories rack, which is 30 feet long in some stores. You see all this wood stacked up and just cooking over all natural wood. I'm telling you, the butchers that are listening here, we're seeing a huge resurgence in people kind of connecting to that primal, I love fire, let's cook over live fire pits. There's a pit out there called the Brio, which is really cool pit that you can just burn, regular wood in and hang meat over the top of it, and hang a tomahawk or a chicken or a turkey or whatever.
Nice.
And there's a big resurgence. Pellets are huge and pellet grills are really big, but in the next three years or so, I think you're going to see a huge resurgence in natural primal cooking, primal cuts of meat, simple logs and chunks, where fire meets meat it's awesome right now, and it's really starting to come up pretty strong.
Nice. And so how many lines of sauces and rubs are there that people could get? And are they in? Yeah,
so there's. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, and where could people get them besides online? Is there what stores do you guys have your shelf space in?
Yeah, so the easiest and widest grocery retailer is just Kroger. Kroger's got the sauces and the rubs out there. Go pick them up. I'm sure we're going to see a huge spike in sales when this airs. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to have them. I'd love for all of the butchers that are carrying these products to have them, there on the case, so they can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Some of them, the major big box hardware stores, they're starting to carry a little bit more, rubs and sauces. So they've got them there in hardware. Ace is a great place to go. True Value, nice. Kind of a local. I feel like there's a nice relationship between your local butcher and an Ace True Value. I think there's something there, between those industries, because there's still places where you can walk in and, kind of know the local guy and have that relationship with barbecue. And just like your local butchers, you have a relationship with the butcher and, kind of, hey, what's fresh, what's good in today. They can kind of tell you what to get and how to cook it. But
that
I'd
brings
love to
me
get
to
some butchers out there.
Well, that just reminds me of this guy I used to work with, Tony, and he was
Tony.
Yeah, Tony. He was a 30-year veteran in the meat industry, and his carpal tunnel and things like that, because it is a hard industry. He was like, oh, I need to not cut as much and only work so many days a week, but if that's okay. And I was like, yeah, Tony, that's fine. You've been loyal for a long time. And I was like, well, let me know if you want to be a cleaner or, I still want to give you your hours. And he said, oh, no, I got a gig at Ace Hardware. So he was a butcher also who worked at Ace Hardware. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. I mean, what a great relationship that is, showing people how to cook and what to cook.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was listening last night. I was listening to your podcast with Jess Pryles, who's awesome. I mean, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you ever have a chance to go out and see her do her thing, or taste her food, she does a great job. But listening to you guys kind of go back and forth and talk about, Terrace Major and the different cuts that are out there and available, people just don't know. They walk into a big grocery store and see a T-bone or a porterhouse or a tri-tip now as it's becoming more popular, and they just get the basic things. But similar to lump charcoal, we're seeing so many more people over the last 2 years starting to buy lump charcoal, and not just CowBoy. I mean, lump charcoal across the industry is rising. Natural fuels are rising because people really want to know what's in their food. They want to control what they give to their families and what they give to themselves. And that starts with fuel, and it's all the way through the things that you're putting on top of it. And I think that is lost a little bit. And so if we can create a better relationship with the meat and butchering community about how to use natural ingredients that match up with the natural ingredients that they're selling, I think that'd be a beautiful thing. And that's one of the reasons that we got involved with the World Butchers Challenge and the Butchers Guild, because I think what they're doing is fantastic. Mm-hmm. I had a great opportunity last, I think it was October, November, in Dallas at the World Food Championship. We had a huge booth, and we created the War Wagon, we called it, which was really just a 4-foot by 6-foot wagon with a frame over the top of it that we just lit up with fire, and we hung these huge American Wagyu cuts of beef over. We skewered some with swords, hung it over the fire. We actually cooked a whole leg, beef leg, and we just hung that over the fire and cooked it all day long. And we were slicing it off like shawarma, just a little bit of slices here and there.
Like a steamship, classic steamship round.
It was awesome. But Brian Butler from Salt and Time, he came up and he did. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He showed us how to cut this meat, and he did a couple butchering classes there right in front of everybody. And what you guys do and how you break things down so easily, it was really, really cool. And, to be able to see that and get that connection, it's really important to us, to our industry. If you guys weren't out there creating great products, we'd have a lot more difficult time selling our products. So we appreciate what you guys do.
Well, I'll take the compliment on behalf of the meat industry.
Right.
Well, thank you. And then what events and what is the future of CowBoy Charcoal? I don't want you to tip your cards and say we're developing this, but what can people expect? We have this great partnership with the WBC and competition and things like that. And then what are things that you're in the works on as far as, like that event you did in Dallas? What are events like that coming up in the future?
Well, so this is a really cool one. And if anyone is in Phoenix, please, or the Arizona area, please reach out to us at cowboycharcoal.com or on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. There's a million ways to get a hold of us. But we're going out to the Phoenix Mecum auto auctions. You know, that NBC Sports, they auction off all these crazy cars.
Yeah.
They have what's called their sunset sessions. I think it's the first time they've done it. And at the end of it, Friday night, Saturday night, it's in April on I think it's the 13th and 14th, whatever that Friday and Saturday night is. They've got Lighthouse Band and Billy Ray Cyrus. They're coming out to sing, do their band deal. And we've got our big war wagon where we're going to be hanging meat and cooking over live fire and handing out samples to folks. It's going to be a blast. We love doing that kind of stuff. We've got a couple really good influencers coming out with us. Keto Roberts, she's at Girl Carnivore, and Christy Vanover at Girls Can Grill.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming out to cook with us. They both know everything about what they're doing over live fire. I'll be out there cooking as well, burning my hand, I'm sure, but helping them out as much as possible. So we've got some cool events that we're a part of. But you know, in the future, we've got some great innovations coming out. You know, I said we have briquettes as well, where we take the fall down from our lump charcoal business and we create these briquettes. We bind them with all natural starch binders, and then we use about 15% wood species, so you get a nice smoke with the charcoal. But we also this year have come out, and they're available at Ace and True Value and a few other places. Garlic and onion briquettes. So we take 15% mixture, a little bit more, a little bit less, of real food grade garlic, granulated garlic and onion. We add that to the briquette slurry with some oak wood, so you get a nice smoke, and we include that in the briquette. So it's not just kind of filtered on top; it's actually in the briquette.
Mm-hmm.
And you get, when you walk into somebody's house and they're cooking dinner for you and they're sauteing onions and garlic and the house just smells fantastic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the type of smell that you get when you walk in your backyard burning these briquettes. It's awesome. We tested them. They're awesome.
That does sound awesome.
Yeah. So we're pretty fired up about it, and literally, and so that's one of the innovations. Thank you. There's a bunch of them in this deal, but you can. We've got a few other flavors that are going to come out. We wanted to start with this one, see what the audience reaction was, and everyone that's burned them thought, "Oh my God, why hasn't this happened in the past? This is great." So it's our culinary line and great stuff.
Awesome. And then I just want to end with this. And then what are you guys, or not what are you guys? That's not English. Where can people find you online? And what's the best way to get a hold of your product? And Duraflame, I know, is in every single major retailer or grocery store in America, but CowBoy Charcoal, where can they find you online, and things like that? Because I want to push as much sales as I can to you guys, because everything because everything you've said today, I think is very complimentary to both of our industries, and I feel like if people are chefs, home chefs, barbecuers, butchers, and things like that, and even the average listener needs to be able to find your product. And especially for everything you've done for my side of the industry with supporting the World Butchers Challenge, I just want to ensure that people know exactly how to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if all else fails, World Butchers Challenge, we've got a link right there on their page, and it takes you right to CowBoy Charcoal. So, I really want everyone to be aware of the Butchers Challenge and get behind these guys, show them some support, give them some love. They're working hard to show that the USA is the best, and just watching Brian cut these things down and having been, from Stockton, California over to Taylor's Market, I mean, their meat case is like, I just want to take pictures of it and put it inside my office. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
So support those guys as much as possible. You can reach us at, Instagram, Facebook, CowBoy Charcoal. We're easy. We're out there, to get a hold of. And I really want to kind of make a plea with the butchers that are out there, is we really want to have kind of a one-on-one relationship with the butchers that are creating products for consumers. So, having our products on the shelf is great, but having conversations with folks that are out there, sending our reps to stores is something that we would love to do, to have kind of a cowboy day, behind the case if people have questions. We really want to create that relationship, because we can't have a great business unless you guys are having a great business, and it kind of goes back and forth. So definitely want to have a good relationship with you guys.
And I think that's important, that every good butcher, like I've always said that when I used to work retail years ago, is if your butcher also gives you cooking advice. Your butcher also tells you time and temperature, and if they're sold out of this cut, they could recommend that cut, etc. And that being said, they should be able to, recommend the appropriate fuel and recommend the flavor that fuel will bring to elevate your dish to the next level.
Absolutely. I mean, you guys are a wealth of knowledge, and, I just want to make sure that we can support what you guys are doing, because, great meat and great cuts, whether it's wrapped in a case or it's something behind the glass that you need to ask for, everybody's got questions. How many times do you walk into the store and you see people just standing there looking? Yeah. I don't know what to get. Look at all this stuff, so. And
I also
we're there to help.
I encourage the consumer to ask those questions. That's why those people are there. Is a lot of people I know have social anxiety. And personally, me, when I go to a hardware store, I'd rather spend 40 minutes trying to find something on my own than ask for help. But but get over that.
My dad used to send me to the store, and he would say, "Go get the little thing that wraps around that thing, and it comes over like that. Just ask the guy; he'll tell you."
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, tell that.
Awesome. And then so it. I'm gonna. I think there's an organic place that Daniel. I want to say thank you so much. You're gonna send me all the appropriate links, and I'm gonna put them in the show notes. And I encourage you, the listeners, to check out all these things, and then check out them, and then our partnership. And I think this was informative, not only on the product line of what you guys do, but also so much on the industry side. And I think that's important for people to know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks for having me on. Any questions, like you said, there'll be the links there. Feel free to send us a note on any of the social channels, and hopefully as many people as are listening can go and watch and support the World Butchers Challenge I think it's in September. In Sacramento. I'll be there. Our whole crew will be there cheering the USA on. And I know it would mean a lot to the folks that are competing to have a well-represented butchers kind of alliance there cheering them on. So hopefully we get to meet a bunch of folks there.
Awesome. All right. It's me at the end of the episode to give my end of the episode spiel. Obviously, that was heavy on CowBoy Charcoal. And I would love for you to support them, because they support us. The United States Butcher Team, what I feel like also promotes butchery in general, being a part of the WBC and allowing people an outlet to express themselves in this industry. Tickets are on sale September 5th for the World Butchers Challenge. Get your tickets for September 4th as well to see the junior competition. But just know that when it comes to traveling and making plans and things like that, don't let sensationalism drive what you're going to do. Literally earlier today, while I'm recording this, I was in Seattle, ground zero for this thing we're experiencing, and people were going about their normal lives. There was more hand washing than usual, not so many handshakes, but I still felt confident that I went around and just licked the crosswalk button on every single crosswalk I went to. So yeah, I'm not changing anything different about my life. So in turn, hope to see you at the WBC. And until next time, keep your knife sharp and live in the margin.